Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the end game in the Trump trial because the contours are coming into focus and it's a little bit tricky how things will go. So when we last talked about timing, the DA had announced to the court that they had two witnesses left and that they believed they might even finish this week, and that would mean finishing by Thursday, tomorrow, because there's no court this week on Friday, which I think is the day that Barron Trump is due to graduate. And the judge let Trump off for that. I know there's a side story that he's doing something else. I don't know. It would be very, very Trumpian. Then, of course, what happens in a trial after that is there's a defense case, which could include a defendant testifying. That would be time consuming and a big deal, would be, in this case, something that Trump has said flat out he will do. Then the government has a chance to put on a rebuttal case, usually quite short, just to rebut a few specific things that it wants to for the defendant, from the defendant's case. Then the parties haggle over to the extent they haven't already pre-trial, over the specific phrasing of the instructions of law that the judge is going to announce to the jury to guide their deliberations, then closing arguments, then the jury gets the case. But that general template, I think, A, is not going to apply here in several respects, and B, got a little bit of a scheduling kind of tricky calendar point. First, I mentioned this in passing, but really worth underscoring. Cohen's it. They've ended with Cohen, and the strategy, when people think about it, will be, for starters, anomalous. So they typically a defendant typically a witness like Cohen, who you think you really need for certain information, but is going to be subject to a bruising cross-examination, you would sort of bury in the middle. Whereas arguably the last witness is the most important witness. All the social studies, and there's a lot on this, they're very interesting, say that the sort of high point of a given presentation, be it an hour or weeks, and the last point of a presentation are really the most, they have outsized influence. So they chose to go last with Cohen, and even more, they chose to put his warts, and if warts is the right word for 8 criminal convictions and the like, at the very end, and construct with them a kind of morality tale where, Cohen cops to it, regrets what he's done, not too long, not too maudlin, but regretted lying, regretted bullying, regretted the different things he did, that he didn't give the American people all the information. And in any event, that last 5 minutes, very counter to the conventional wisdom, I thought played quite well. This was yesterday. The jury was the most attentive I've seen them, and their attention fell off when the cross-examination began. Okay. But now let's kind of take these tracks and put where we are in the trial and what's coming up. So the DA didn't announce, they told the court at sidebar, we're not bringing any other witness in. So that suggests, by the way, the witness they had in mind probably was designed as a sort of final cushion if things went poorly with Cohen, just to put something between the jury and that testimony. Might well have been some kind of expert on election law. There'll be a little bit of a tussle during closing arguments where Trump will try to say, I don't know anything about what's a contribution and what isn't. And, I just signed a few checks and didn't even notice them when I did, something like that. But they're not going to call the other person. So that suggests they think Cohen went well. So on the other hand, the Cohen cross-examination is the most important part of the trial for the defense. Their closing argument is going to be everything Cohen says is total self-serving lies. And they've got a lot of ammo. It's always been the case, which is one thing that struck me when the prosecution said they could finish by Thursday. They have to factor in a long cross-examination. To me, I think the minimum it goes is through the end of the day tomorrow. They'll be crossing Cohen that long. Now, take it from here. We're at the end of the week because no trial on Friday, and let's say the cross-examination is done, the prosecution rests. Okay. Now, what's the defense going to do? Well, it's time to call Trump, right? Because he said he was going to, et cetera. No. Littman axiom number 1, Donald Trump will not testify. So put him to the side. So really the question becomes, do they want to put up, a kind of maybe their own election law expert, the one that they asked to permit to testify? The court has refused. Maybe you put a witness, including one that we've already seen because the rules are different for when they're testifying as a defense witness, to rebut a little point that you think is important, something about he really did it for Melania, which I think is for a number of reasons is going to have a lot of trouble getting purchased with the jury, including she has not been there even one day, this loving wife that's always having these private moments with Donald Trump. But they did, and they heard this just crazy line from him when, as Cohen testified anyway, when he said, what about upstairs? Meaning, what about, what will she do about Stormy? And Trump said, how long do you think I'll be on the market? Meaning I'm going to get divorced and then get another young bride in short order. So they could do a couple little witnesses there, but I think if you're not going to call the defendant and you don't have something important, you're better off just saying, we're not going to call anybody, Your Honor, because they want to assert, even though it's a complete posture, that they're so confident that the government hasn't proven its case that they don't even have to call someone. They'll just say there's no reasonable doubt. All right. But so now think about it. It's Monday. Maybe they've had a short case. Maybe there's a short rebuttal case if they do something. Let's say you just bring back one witness. Here's a possible thing that comes up. They've suggested on the cross of Cohen that Cohen really began to turn on Trump in order to reduce his sentence once he had it. Pecker they could bring back if they present this in their defense case, to say, as he's, testified, but briefly, that Cohen was really, as Cohen's testified, really pissed off when Trump gave him such a shafting and with bonus and the like. So, and that's before, of course, he's indicted, serving a sentence, etc. So a little thing like that. But anyway, it's hard to know if they just simply say, we rest, nothing. Now it's Monday, and now there's the timing differs. But rather than being too laborious about this, let's say things are taken up on Monday, some testimony, et cetera, between the defense case and any rebuttal case. Now it's Tuesday, and the parties are going to need to argue about the law and for the instructions, and the judge is going to need to resolve those arguments. So that's not lickety split. Indeed, I think that takes a day. And here's what matters. The things I've said could compute to being all done Monday morning or not done Tuesday afternoon. And the punchline and scheduling here is Thursday. There's no court Wednesday. And that Thursday before Memorial Day is the first day before 4 days off. The Friday before, that's either something for a juror or maybe that's Barron's graduation, and Monday is the holiday. I just can't see the judge giving having either final arguments and then, now just think about these. We'll see you Tuesday, jury, or giving them the case even on a Tuesday, but telling them to come on a Thursday, but telling them to come back the following Tuesday. So, two possibilities it seem likely to me. One is that it's really streamlined. Everything's done with Cohen on Thursday, and they can actually get to closing arguments by Tuesday. And then they would do those. The jury would get the case. There's some precedent when, if they have it already, maybe they work over the weekend. It's possible. But then if that doesn't happen, I think all of a sudden it bumps a week in a kind of awkward way. There's this lacuna now where, the jury has been attentive and they've taken a lot of notes. So, they'll be ready, but it's also less than ideal to have that big a gap, just as you're going into the final step. So that I just wanted to lay that out so you see that there's a kind of a linchpin come next Monday or so when we'll know when either we're going to speed, kind of double time into closing arguments and the jury gets the case on Tuesday, or we go regular or time, or even slow it up because of the big vacation coming and not much happens next week. And then the action resumes the following Tuesday with the final act, closing arguments and deliberation. So that's where things stand. One other point, the fact that DOJ had another witness, but it turns out to be dispensable, means to me it wasn't somebody big like Keith Schiller, who was the bodyguard in Las Vegas and could easily confirm or try to rebut Stormy's presence, possibly. And he's been ducking the case generally, hiding out in Florida down in the Keys somewhere. We're not sure where. I think it'd be unlikely that Trump could produce him, and it would be, a brouhaha because he'd been ducking the DA, but we'll see. And it more suggests that rather than anybody important like that, it was going to be a small, probably expert witness. And now they're saying, things went well with Cohen and we don't need anyone else. Okay, so that's all. I know a little bit up in the air and labyrinthine, but I think it's valuable to have in mind, especially for people who are following the trial closely, and just to understand we've got a little, tripwire coming up next Monday or so, and whether it trips or not will determine whether the trial is encapsulated and goes very quickly to its final stages, or whether instead there's a whole sort of week where not much happens. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.